So Kyle Tucker is clearly the guy in this year's free agency class that every team probably wants, but realistically only a few teams would actually pony up the money to go out there and get. So Kyle is one of those 5-tool players in the MLB, which if I had a kid who was growing up playing baseball, I would tell them, become a 5-tool player, do anything you can do to become a 5-tool player, because the amount of money these guys seem to make is kind of ridiculous. Every offseason it grows on top of each other. But anyway, Kyle Tucker is a fantastic player in Major League Baseball. In my opinion, the thing with Kyle is he can't be the number one best guy, like one of those top 5 type players in the MLB that will just carry a team to, being one of the better teams in the league, but he is a super good baseball player, and I think he fits perfectly for, a team that already has one of those like blue chip guys that we all know about. Anyway, he's going to be a 30 year in guy, and that in and of itself is enough for any team to be super interested in him. But the crazy thing to me is what the contract is probably going to look like for whatever team does decide to sign Kyle Tucker this offseason. And we'll start there. I think Kyle's probably going to get a 10-year, and I think it could be 12-year. He's only 28 years old, so he can easily play for, another 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be a really long contract, and I think it's probably going to be worth over $400 million. I would estimate around 450 million, but the range I would say about 425 to, it could probably get up to like 475. My best estimation is right in the middle there, which that just sounds absolutely bonkers to me for a player like Kyle Tucker. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Kyle Tucker. He's fantastic. He's one of the better players in the league, but $450 million is just absolutely wild. And I think there is a couple reasons as to why he's going to get such a big contract this offseason. Firstly, I think he's just benefiting from an offseason where there are none of those, blue chip type Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani that we've seen in the past 2 off seasons, becoming free agents. So he is clearly the best player in this free agency class, which I feel like this one is kind of more middle heavy and less like top heavy with those like really top tier type players, which for Kyle's sake is, he's going to benefit a lot. He's going to get a huge contract, for that reason. And then the other reason is I just think there's a good collection of teams that are really willing to go out there and spend a ton of money this offseason. And that kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about, which is just the best landing spots for Kyle Tucker. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's really probably only a few teams that realistically could cough up the amount of money that they need to sign this guy. So none of these teams are going to be super shocking, but hey, that's how the MLB works nowadays. To start with the first team, it's the boring one. It's the Los Angeles Dodgers. If we're being honest with ourselves, this is probably the most realistic landing spot for Kyle. If you could say anywhere on the Dodgers team could use some help, it is probably the outfield. So that is going to play in Kyle Tucker's favor. And also, like they've proven it again and again, they are just more willing to give these players bigger, longer contracts than, the other teams in the league. So I don't need to go too in depth with the Dodgers. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. Number 2 is also kind of self-explanatory. It's the New York Yankees. Now this one to me makes a ton of sense, but I don't actually think the Yankees are going to do it. Firstly, they're losing Cody Bellinger this offseason, so that's going to be a hole in their outfield. He was a guy who was super beneficial for them this past season, playing a ton of different outfield positions for them, kind of just filling in spots throughout the year. And also they're just not going to pay Cody this offseason, so I think that also, makes it a little bit more likely that they'd be willing to go out there and, pay a lot of money for a player like Kyle Tucker. Anyway, 3 and 4 are where things get maybe a little bit more interesting. So the third team is the Blue Jays, and there's a big caveat with this one, and it's if they are able to re-sign Bo Bichette, because for similar reasons to Kyle Tucker, I think Bo Bichette's also going to get a really big contract, bigger than he would in some other years, and there's just no way that they would be able to pay both of those guys this offseason. That said, the Blue Jays could definitely also use some, more contact and power left-handed hitting in their lineup, which Kyle Tucker, we know, would be able to provide that for them. Now, the fourth one to me is actually the most realistic. Like, I think this is has the best chance of happening outside of the Dodgers. I actually believe the San Francisco Giants have a really good chance of going out there and getting Kyle Tucker. I've alluded to it in multiple videos. I believe the Giants are going to spend a lot. They've kind of put hints out there that they are going to be spenders. It's one of those things like we just got to wait and see what happens. But if they are spenders, big spenders this offseason, I think Kyle Tucker would be probably the first phone call they're going to make right off the bat, because this is a team that definitely could use outfield help, specifically in right field. What do we know about Kyle Tucker? That's where he likes to play the most, and he's a great fielder and would provide a huge spark for that lineup that already has a lot of talent in it. So I just think this offseason lines up super well with the Giants and their willingness to probably go out there and spend money whenever you're looking at the possibility of, you know, Kyle Tucker going out to San Francisco. I just think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe you guys disagree with that, but who knows, man? We're just hypothesizing at this point. So I also think that the Phillies and maybe the Mets are like an honorable mention type of vibe. Like maybe they could be in the race, and it definitely would surprise me though if either of those teams did make the move to actually sign Kyle Tucker, but who knows? But honestly, like those 6 teams are probably the entire list of the possible teams that could cough up the money and go out there and give a $450 million contract to a player. Like the rest of the teams are just not going to do that. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. Let me know where you guys think Kyle Tucker will end up. Like I said, this is clearly the best player in this free agency class, so this is a pretty big one. Let me know in the comments down below. Drop a like as always if you did enjoy. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.